Welcome to Farm to Future, the podcast that brings you closer to the power of agriculture in shaping our future, in shaping our life, and providing solutions to today's challenges. I'm your host, Imole Olasunmoboye, and in a time where economic hardships are felt across Africa, especially with the recent Middle East war, we need to go back to the basis of humanity ourselves, which is agriculture. So as we say always, Farm to Future has come to bring us back to that important space. Today we'll be taking a look at the economy, the business of agriculture, and where Farm to Future has come to fill in some voids. I have with me on the show today Oludare Mudashiru. Is an agripreneur with over 2 decades of experience when it comes to crop farming. Oludare Mudashiru, good day and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Imole Olasunmoboye, and thank you very much for always having me on the Farm to Future podcast.
Now, we were going to talk about the business of agriculture. I would like you to break it down for us. How can we achieve profit? How can we make agriculture a business model?
Well, that's an interesting question because, as I've always said, most times people ask, what is agriculture? Why is agriculture important? Why are we, can we do agriculture as a business? And I often tell them, I said, if we are not looking at the business of agriculture, if we are not looking at the business side of agriculture, then agriculture will not be as interesting as it should be, because it then also means that the activities are not economically sustainable, because, if it's not sustainable, like I've always argued, if it's not sustainable, then it may not be profitable. Yeah. All right. So first is for us to think about sustainable agricultural production. Either you're looking at crop production or you're looking at livestock production. So you have to look at sustainable agricultural production. And people would always argue, what do you mean by sustainability, even if it's not profitable, And I tell them, sometimes, and in fact, not even sometimes, most times, agriculture requires a lot of patience, it requires a lot of consistency, it requires commitment. In fact, in the initial phase, it requires a lot of sacrifices, all right? And of course, farmers are always sacrificial people. So because they are sacrificial people, it's easier for them to attain that sustainability while building consistency into the system to guarantee profitability.
Let us note that this podcast is proudly supported by Remote Agric. We should note that. And now come to Mudashiru now. What role has the Remote Agric come to play when it comes to the business of agriculture?
Well, it's an interesting one, looking at the combination between the Farm to Future podcast and the Remote Agric brand. I want to say a big thank you to the Remote Agric brand for being a proud supporter of the Farm to Future podcast. That's also part of what we're talking about, sustainability, profitability. Remote Agric is a system, it's a system that's been developed to enhance farmers' productivity. Okay, Remote Agric is a system that's been developed to enhance farmers' productivity. It's also a system that has been developed to aggregate farming interests. Now, You understand that? So it's a system that's been developed to aggregate farming interest. So if you are interested in the production side of things, if you are interested in the value chain side of things, if you are interested in the financial side of the agricultural if you are interested in even solving the labor challenges in the agricultural space, if you are interested in, exploring entrepreneurial opportunities around agriculture, remote agric helps to facilitate all of that. All right. So, but I think the phase where remote agric is currently is the phase of aggregating farming interests. Farming interests. So you are interested in farming one way or the other. You are interested in agricultural production one way or the other. Remote agric is a platform for you to build and grow that interest. And remote agric has been able to launch products that bring in small older farmer, all right, small older farmer remotely.
And saying farmer, I would like you to expatiate further on that. Even if you are want to be farmer, you are not yet practicing.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's why we said, aggregating farming interest.
Exactly.
All right, it's a platform, it's a system that aggregates farming interests. So I'm interested in production, or I'm already into production, or since October 2024, for example, those who have partnered, those who have become farmers with remote agric have already established their interests. Some have already cultivated their farm. Some have already even harvested their farm. Some have even sold their farm produce. Some have even started enjoying the benefit of selling their produce.
For the benefit of those listening or watching us for the first time, I would like you to expatiate further on the subscription you are talking about. People want to know more about Farm to Future, the podcast itself, and also remote agric. How do we be a part of this plan on ground?
Well, for the podcast, I mean, we've always realized that if people are not informed about what they need to know about a sector, about the industry, about innovation within the industry, about the possibilities within the industry, the opportunities, the brands that are also working in the industry, because the agricultural space is a huge space. It's a very, very large space. It's a space that is critical to the population. It's a space that is critical to the economy. It's a space that is critical even to our civilization. Agriculture is an interestingly critical space. Now, if what is happening in that space is not being brought to the people, if the people do not have like a one-stop shop where they can get the information of what is happening in the agricultural space, then it becomes a difficult place to explore. That's the essence of the Farm to Future podcast. So if you have subscribed to the channel, the Farm to Future channel, you can be sure that you will find updates regularly of what is happening in the industry. In fact, the podcast sometimes even allow us to x-ray the industry, x-ray new products, x-ray new ideas, x-ray new projects. There are different projects that are happening within the agricultural space that so many people don't even know exists. So the essence of the podcast is to make sure that you are able to get those information real time. So that's the essence of the podcast. So, subscribing to the channel is really good for you. Now, that on the side, like I said, remote agric, then happens to be a brand. So, like what we said, the podcast is supposed to do, to bring information to you of brands that are doing innovative stuff within the agricultural space, and that's why we are glad to have partnered with Remote Agric in facilitating the continuous production of this podcast. So now, coming to Remote Agric, what is Remote Agric simply doing? Like I said, Remote Agric is a system that aggregates farming interests.
In fact, let's break down the English. Remote
Agric, yes. Now, also very direct.
Very.
It means you are doing agriculture remotely. It's almost like you have your, remote control, and then you sit back and then you are controlling what exactly you want to achieve. So that is part of what Remote Agric is about. So virtual, you are doing agriculture. I'm in the US, United States of America, for example, and I want to be a part of what is happening in Nigeria. I want to be a part of what is happening in the agricultural space in Africa. Remote Agric is then saying, subscribing to the farming package, because in Remote Agric, what we do, or what the Remote Agric system does, is to help you become a farmer, is to help you own a farm,
is to help you become a successful farmer,
and also help you to become a successful farmer. All right, help you to be a sustainable farmer, help you to be a profitable farmer. And remember, we said if it's not sustainable, it can't be profitable. And sometimes it can be profitable, but it is not sustainable. It is possible. We've seen businesses that have been profitable, but over time it became non-sustainable. So, but for agriculture, it must be sustainable, because it has to be here for all of life being here. I mean, life is a continuous continuum, and so if life is a continuous continuum, agriculture is also supposed to be a continuous continuum. So if it is not sustainable, it cannot become a continuous continuum.
Now, people listening to you now and hearing the word subscription would feel like this is not the first time they are hearing things like this. I would like us to quickly make some clarification over there.
Now,
we've had some investment and ROI scheme in the past that eventually they have to just go away with their pay.
That is the difference between the Remote Agric system and the other systems that people have been a part of before. Now, the Remote Agric model is such that aggregate farming interests, right? It's not primarily an investment platform. It's a platform that connects with, for example, what Farm to Future podcast is all about. Farm to Future is to give you all the knowledge that you need to succeed in exploring the agricultural space. Different from in a platform that just tells you all the possible investments in the agricultural space. Oh, you can invest in this, you can invest in that. These are the guys that are running the investment. They have a track record in finance, they have a track record in tech, they have a track record, but then they have all the track record in other places other than in the agri space itself. They are not core farmers. With Remote Agric, for example, the chief operations officer in Remote Agric, who happens to be Oludare Mudashiru, said here, has over 15, 16, 17 years of real life hands-on experience in being a farmer. He's a field person, core into the operations of agricultural, food crop production, livestock on the side, cash crop on the side, but focused heavily for close to 20 years on the mastery of food crop production. So it's a different thing entirely. While the other platform had used the logic of fintech, multiple transactions, profits, marginal profit on multiple transactions, which is what the fintech ideology is about. using that to drive the agricultural, opportunities, doesn't work. It does not connect, because the operational environment where those transactions happen for the fintech deals, agricultural sector is such that allows and questions high risk investments. May not really, high risk investment, quick turnover, quick turnaround time, rate of returns very high, returns on investment very high, and the time frame for all of this to happen very short. Yes. In the agricultural space, no, it doesn't work. Agriculture always require patient funding. It always requires patient funding. It requires that you should be patient, because it's a process. Seed, time, and harvest.
For would-be farmers, I do not call them investors now, because you said everybody is a farmer.
Everybody is a farmer. I would like on the remote agri platform.
Yes, I would like you to talk about two things: sustainability and profitability, which you have earlier said are the backbone of agriculture. Sustainability, then profitability. What measures, if anybody is coming to invest money in this particular farm, he has to be sure that this thing is sustainable.
Exactly.
And yes, I can make my profit from it. So what measures do Remote Agric have in place to make sure sustainability is not being questioned and to make sure profitability is key?
Now, when you look at the agricultural space, there are fundamentals that drives the engagement within the space. Now, one of the critical fundamental is humanity. All right, humanity. You know that humans are here on earth and will always be here. So we want to make food available for them. We want to make food available for humanity. So in itself, that system should naturally sustain itself. So if you are too profit oriented, sometimes when you are done producing, you come to the market and you have put all the costs of production into consideration, and then you have also put a margin of sale, thinking that for the effort that we have put into it, we should be able to make 70% returns. That way, you have not thought about the fact that it's a job to be done. All right, humanity needs to be maintained. So I am ready to be here to serve humanity. If God, as some people believe, or nature, as others believe, would give me 80 or 90 years to spend on earth, I want to use 50 of those 90 years to serve humanity. So if I serve humanity by working in the agricultural space, I've decided, then I can work with marginal, very marginal, very little to keep us operational. And so long as we can be operational, consistently operational, year 1 we are operational, year 2 we are operational, year 3 we are operational, year 4 we are operational, year 5 we are operational, because prices of food goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down. That is the way it is. So if we are so profit driven, that means for the years that we have not made profits, even though what the business has made is good enough for the business to continue, we will decide that because it's not profitable, we'll shut down the operation. But shutting down the operation does not shut down the stomach that is requesting for food. In fact, there are times that farmers will produce food and give it out for free.
So naturally, it is sustainable.
It's because It's about humanity. So you must first think about humanity. How do we sustain our population?
But some things
How do we
affect your...
Of course, we will get to that.
Good.
We'll get to that. And we'll talk around how to balance the process. How to balance the process to ensure that sustainability that we are talking about. That, you see, and the reason I keep talking about sustainability before profitability is this. It's not a sector where you can come in and calculate your turnaround time like that. Say, oh, within 5 years, we would have turned this around and we can. No. Sometimes, of course, before we started talking about climate smart agriculture, before we started talking about being able to control all the other factors of production within the agricultural product, if you are talking food crop, for example, before we started moving away from seasonality, before we started moving away from season-based production into thinking of other, okay, you are thinking irrigation, for example, if you are thinking, greenhouse farming, if you are thinking. So before we started thinking about that, we were almost so locked in seasonality and operations that has to do with season, in season, out season. So now that you can also say, well, I can control the factors, I can control the input factor, including including those factors that looks like nature controlled factor. Water being available during the rainy season. Now you can make water available through your other means of storage or other means of accessing, the natural aquifer, or by using your streams, by using your dams, by using your rivers, by using your marshland. You can now access water and you can supply water to the plant, so you can have the plant in and out of season. So it's thinking around sustainability that has made that possible. Sustainable use of all of these resources, and still thinking around sustainability, we came into smart, climate smart agriculture. That, okay, yes, we have gone away from seasonality, but does that give us a reason to be wasteful with natural resources? And that's where you now talk about climate smart. So, and people can tell you during the rainy season, there are 1,000,000,001 things you can do to store water. And once you have stored the water, when you don't have rain again, you bring the water back for the plant to use. Now, but if you are able to continue those activities in a closed loop, you would have attained some level of sustainability. And because you have now been able to continue doing those things, profitability becomes a lot easier. Even if at first it is marginal. But the accumulation of the marginal profits then leads you to a point where you can now guarantee that you have enough surplus value. And that surplus value, at the point at which you can now see the surplus value, you can now talk about the growth rate of the profit. It has gone from 10%. It could take a long time before it will move from 10% profit to even 13%. It could take a much shorter time to move from 13 to something like 17 or 18. And then a much shorter time between 18 and 25%. And if we are able to run agricultural venture to guarantee a minimum of 25%, then you are talking about profitability. And at that rate, your operation becomes very stable, all right, becomes absolutely sustainable and profitable.
Well, this question is necessary because, as Yoruba would say in the Yoruba parlance, which means if you promise to clothe me, we really need to see you being clothed yourself. You can't be naked and tell someone else that you will clothe the person. So when you talk about sustainability and profitability, well, I wouldn't want you to bring the expose the secret that is being done, but at least your explanation itself shows that you understand what is happening here. Now, before we go on this episode, I would like to ask you, what are the subscription levels for remote agric? And not just that, this started in 2024.
Yes.
Can you proudly say you have people out there who can give testimonies, who can testify about this program?
Well, yes, I'm sure. For this podcast, you would find some of the testimonials, somewhere further down. So just make sure you watch this till the end. Okay, you will see some of the testimonial. Now, when we started in October 2024, we started with a product called Own a Yam Farm. All right, we started with the product Own a Yam Farm, and Own a Yam Farm, as at that time, was sold at a unit price of 1,200 naira, and we had a target of having farmers that would be able to produce just 10,000 tubers of yam. And that cycle was supposed to run between October 2024 to October 2025, where the farmers' tubers would have been harvested, sold, and whatever it is that the yam was sold at would be given back to the farmers, right? And funny enough, it was even a season that the projection coming into that year was very good for tubers. And by the time we got to October 2025, we found out that the prices of yam tubers came down. But because of the sustainability plan that was integrated into the system, no farmer got back anything less than what they had used as their cost of production. Now, by the time we did the sales and we aggregated the revenue, we discovered that what the farmers got back was about 38%. If you are looking at the rates, by those who uses ROI, it came to about 38%. All right, and the farmers got, many of the farmers allowed the system to help them sell their produce and then remit their monies back to them. So but by the time, of course, people knew how much they paid. I paid 1,200, I got 1,000 whatever back. So they were able to do the difference and do the calculation. By the time they did that calculation, it became clear that they got 38% returns. And in fact, when you look at that, I was saying earlier that by the time you get to a 25% return, it is profitable now. Somebody is now getting 38%
in your first year of operation.
In the first year of the operation of the platform. But mind you, what made it possible had been the years of experience of the people that decided to say this should be the way to go for the next phase of what should be happening in the agricultural sector. Now, why is this system important? This system is important because you cannot continue to have the older population, the older the demography of people that are getting involved in agriculture are often the older demography, the older people. So we said, no, we want more of the young people getting involved. How do you get the young people involved in agriculture? You have to target urban professionals. More young people are in the urban centers, they are in the urban cities. More of them are in countries even outside Nigeria. Let's bring them on board using this model, and we've done that, and to the glory of God, we've been able to do that. Now we've gone the first cycle, the second cycle, because we did October 2024 to October 2025. We did February 2025 to February 2026, and we've commenced we've done the October 2025 to October 2026 sales closed. Now the February 2026 to February 2027
is the one currently
ongoing, even at this time. And some few days ago, they had the farm visits for 2026. Okay, because on the remote agri platform everything is done in manner that the farmers can follow what is happening. So they've had the farm visit, they've had farm visit in 2024, they had farm visit in 2025, and they've done the first edition of the farm visit in 2026. All right, so if you look at that, you find out that this is trying to make it very real, working hard to make sure that it is as real as it should be, and the people can feel it. The people can feel it. In fact, we always tell our farmers, don't even give any notice. Try and get to the farm location and see whether you will not be in real time taken to where operations is happening. And that's one of the things I've also told people, that you subscribe to platforms that do not have physical location where you can track the activities that have been sold to you. All right, so why don't you subscribe to the platform where the activities can be tracked, where by yourself you can even you can do a visit, you can do a visitation to the place, you can go there, you can see what is happening, and much more than that. The remote Agric platform is also interested in empowering the farmers.
We'll go there. We'll definitely go there in further episodes. And definitely, as he said, Remote Agric has other plans. And well, we will not disclose everything right here. We have taken a look at the business of agriculture and how Remote Agric has come forward to help us that have excuses, no matter what your excuses might be. Urbanization, you're in an urban area, you don't have space, you do not have a farmland, you do not trust people, whatever your worries are, please subscribe and keep following us. And definitely we will drop phone numbers where you can link the management of the Remote Agric if you have any question that you need to ask them. And in further episodes as well, we'll have our testifiers telling us what they've experienced so far between 2024 and 2026. We are closing this episode right now. I remain Imole, Olasunmoboye, and the advice I will give you as we go is, do not take agriculture lightly.